Hi guys, so we're going to have a think about the future scenarios. If you're not too sure about your future scenarios or what the future may hold, you might like to start off by looking at a Wordle. In this case, I typed in international trade and Wordle. Wordle's a great way of finding examples of words that might help you to understand what some potential future scenarios are. Here you can see we've got words like law, regulation, implementation, economic, intergovernmental, liberalisation. These are all words that could talk about the future of international trade. When thinking about your scenarios, you should think about 3 scenarios. Scenario number 1, returning to how things used to be. Scenario number 2, business as usual or nothing changes. This can include things staying the same or the rate of change staying the same. And finally, faster change. Let's have a think about the first of these. So in the example of international trade, we're talking about going back to trade restrictions on how it used to be maybe 20 or 30 years ago. In this example, you can see that trade restrictions are compared to building a wall, blocking this lady here holding the fabric from entering the market and trading with this lady on the left-hand side who wants to purchase the item. You need to think if trade restrictions are good. Many politicians like to go back to how things used to be. This is a good way of getting votes because people like to think we can go back to how it used to be, an age in the past where things were secure and people knew what were going on. Donald Trump is one of those people. He wants to bring jobs back to the United States of America by imposing trade restrictions on China and stopping Chinese imports from coming to the USA. This is often a very popular thing with politicians and a good way to win votes because people always feel secure about making things the way they used to be, going back to the good old days. The other model is business as usual. In general, people will gradually get used to things. So you could keep things as they are, or the pace of change, you could keep it exactly the same. What you will probably find is, as time goes by, people get used to this gradual change and become less scared of it. Business as usual is the model that businesses like the most because it's predictable. You can predict what's going on. Another alternative is faster change. So for example, let's remove all of the trade barriers at an even faster rate and make international trade grow even faster than it has already. So in this example, we can say that the European Union has removed all of its trading barriers, so countries in the European Union can freely trade with each other. What would happen if we push this change through to every single country in the world? Very likely, one of the things that would happen with fast change is to alienate people. People often get scared by change. When people get scared by change, they are unable to understand it fully. This may lead to protests and actually make the situation worse. This is where people like Donald Trump can work really hard to get votes from people by capitalising on the fact that people are scared. Scared people are very easy to get on your side if you just give them exactly what they want, even though this may be very impractical or even unjust. So fast change can really alienate people. So you've thought about your 3 types of change. Next, for each of your locations, you need to think about which is the most likely. In general, a business as usual model, or nothing happens, or the current rate of change remains the same, is the most likely scenario for each case. But this is not always the case. Finally, you need to think which is the best. So take, for example, Hong Kong. In this diagram, you can see that Hong Kong relies on a lot of international trade for its GDP. China relies on a lot of its trade for its GDP. So if you had a scenario where you reduce the amount of trade, countries like China and Hong Kong, and indeed the United States, would really struggle with their economies. If we increased international trade, other countries here like France, Italy and Russia and Belgium might actually benefit. For example, here, Mexico might also benefit by increasing the amount of international trade. So have a think for each of your locations, what would be the best scenario? The best scenario is not always the most likely scenario. If you're dealing with things with social change or social justice, you may think that the best scenario would be a very radical example where things change very quickly because you are fully committed to the social improvements. But remember, change, if it is too fast, can result in people protesting, even if this is for a very good social reason. So think carefully before you suggest the best scenario is a very fast pace of change.